I got to put my two glasses here. We'll use these in a moment, I promise you. How's everybody doing? You guys psyched? You pumped? Come on, let me hear it. Let's go. You guys ready to take back control of your direct channel? I know I am. I just want to thank Charlie and Triptease and everybody for having me back. It's great to be back here after a couple of years. My name is Alex Velazquez. As he said, I'm the Vice President of Digital Marketing for Westgate Resorts. We have 22 resorts in the domestic United States. Our overarching why among all the resorts, with the exception of maybe our casino in Vegas, is family vacations, right? Pretty simple. We have been doing tons of work in this area, and today I am going to be trying to share with you some of the success we had with SEO, and I'm going to try to show you how to do it in 30 minutes or less. And I'm going to try to use, it's like the buzzword, I've heard this mentioned like 28 times today already, generative AI, specifically ChatGPT, to do it, okay? Now, I know what you're thinking, and as we dig into this, whether you think that generative AI is this, two mega robots in the internet space duking it out, one robot pumping content in, the other robot slapping it down and deciding what's going to rank and what's not, or whether you just think of it as a copyright problem, because that's been flying around, or you think of it maybe as a code red problem for Google and search engines as they figure out what to do with this explosion of content, or maybe you just think about it as hype, right? Make $50,000 a month or a day with AI. I'm sure you guys have seen these YouTube videos, people racking up views. Yeah, you can do this, okay? One thing is clear. Generative AI exists at a crossroads, and we are standing at that crossroads right now, okay? It's a crossroads between coding, even if you don't know how to code, inspiration, researching things when you don't have the time to research things, and content. And all of that is creating opportunities, okay? But in order to do that, you got to get ChatGPT, and we're going to focus on ChatGPT today to cross the road, get across those crossroads for you. And how do you get ChatGPT to cross the road? I'm going to tell you guys, this is a lame joke, so I'm just going to preface it. How do you get it to cross the road? You prompt it, right? And we're going to dig into that today. We're going to get to the actual prompting. I'm going to show you the prompts we use, right? This is kind of like a presentation in the spirit of Glenn Allsop, if anybody follows builtvisible.com, where it's just like, I'm going to give you 80 slides, and I want you to just steal this deck at the end. This is what we do at Westgate. This is our trade secret, if you call it that. And we have been scaling with this for the past 8 months, and I'm going to show you some things today that might open your eyes. But before we get into the 4 key tenets of this, I do want to go back to something, because your content has to live somewhere, and we need to talk about this as a group. We need to call this elephant out, right? So most hoteliers have no idea why they have a travel blog. They have it. Sometimes they post like the 10 cool things about their bar or whatever. They have no idea, right? And the reality is that we need to start thinking about how we use the blog for direct monetization and indirect monetization, but we need to shift our thinking. We need to first and foremost start thinking about our travel blogs on our websites as the area of our website that we're going to use to attack Google's algorithms. And by the way, when I say the Google algorithm, people say that what they really mean is Google has thousands of algorithms that make up their algorithm for ranking stuff, right? And we're going to use that to attack these 2 areas, on-site technical and on-site content, which is a whopping up to 30% of influencing the algorithm, right? And if you have not figured out what you should be using your blog for, I'm going to give you a quick rundown, okay? There's 6 ways you can monetize any travel blog. The first 3 are direct, okay? But somebody could come on your site, land on your blog, and they could cross over and book something. But that's highly unlikely. That's highly unlikely, right? What's the context behind that? We don't see a lot of analytics like that at Westgate, okay? Or you could create audiences out of your blog when you develop enough natural search traffic and you can retarget those audiences. That is more likely, because now you've added them to a retargeting audience, right? Or you could put opt-ins on your blog and collect their email addresses, which we do, and that's even better, right? Because now you got first-party data, because we're talking about that. But today we're going to focus on number 4. This is the hidden juggernaut of conquering your natural search channel. And this is what you use a travel blog for. And we're going to go into it. I'll show you proof out there. Not necessarily us. We'll show you other people, right? And the last 2 we won't talk about because those are advanced topics for other presentations for how to monetize your blog. So we're going to dig in now. Now that we set the context to that, we're going to dig into 4 things, okay? First, I'm going to show you proof that it works. Second, I'm going to help you understand the priority. What do you prioritize when you go to do this, right? Third, I'm going to show you the prompts. That's what you came here for, right? And 4, we're going to go through some pro tips. Are you guys ready? Let's do it. Let's get into it. Proof. I don't believe you. Listen, guys. Here's us, searching Orlando resorts. Last time I came to you, we ranked number 1 for Gatlinburg resorts. We still do. Now we rank number 3 in Google for Orlando resorts at Westgate. Unbranded. It is searched 100,000 times a month. We take 60% of that traffic. I don't even have to advertise on that. I'm making money on it right now. Here's just a snapshot of some of our unbranded ranks in SEMrush for those SEOs out there that like SEMrush. I used it just because a lot of people like it. And this is just like the top 10, and I filtered it by the top 10. Just the top 10 unbranded searches. Nobody's searching Westgate. They're searching Orlando resorts in Gatlinburg, whatever. If I had to go on the open market and pay for this traffic every month, it would cost me $161,000 to buy this traffic, but I don't pay any of that. I just get it. Okay? But don't believe us. Other media sites such as Time Out, Culture Trip, Refinery 29, Thrillist, all the Pete Vanachuk media sites. I'm sure you guys read some of these sites out there, right? They've been doing this for years, guys, right? Time Out alone holds about 11,000 hits to these 3 or 4 articles that dominate the New York City hotel market, all right? Best hotels in NYC for families, best boutique hotels, best hotels with views, best hotel deals. And it's all done with list-type articles that are put on their site or their blog and could live on your blog if you wanted to, right? But how do you do it, right? Well, you do it by appealing to this, let's just say, collection of algorithms that Google has out there. They call expertise, authoritativeness, and trust. We're not going to talk about the trustworthiness piece of it. We're going to focus on expertise and authoritativeness because that is how you leverage content on your blog, okay? That's how your agency is going to leverage it for you, or your marketing manager, or whoever is going to take this deck and utilize it to generate content, right? And if you do that, you will be able to rinse and repeat a certain formula that over time is going to add search engine destination authority. But where do you start? When people say, where do you start? What they really mean is, what do you write about? Okay? When it comes to your travel blog, where you start means, what do you write about? You have to assign a priority. In order to do that, I'm going to go back to my friend, the glass of water over here, because I want to pivot your thinking about this. Your priority, like we just talked about, is now building authority for your destination, right? So I apologize for this slide. It's kind of sketchy. That's why I have this glass of water here. If I am Google and I come to you and I say, hey, we would really like to award you the number 1 rank for hotels in Toronto, you would say, Don, you would probably say yes to that, right? Yeah, of course, right? Yeah, we'll take that. And then Google says to you, that's cool story. Now, is your website an authority about Toronto? If your answer is no, then Google regrettably is going to say to you, yeah, I don't think we can award you that rank, right? Because we're all about relevance at Google and serving relevant search results. And if you're not an authority on Toronto, why would we randomly kind of rank you number 1 for hotels? This is what I call the glass of water effect, right? Okay, so your website, my website. We all have the same pages on one half of the website. I've got a homepage, you've got a homepage, right? You've got a deals page, I've got a deals page, right? Some of you have a groups and meetings page, I have a groups and meetings page. A lot of you have an accommodations page, I have an accommodations page. They're all the same pages that we're using, right? On half of the website. You can nod, it's okay to agree to that, right? The trick is, what are we doing on the other half of the website? Because if you are able to answer Google, and I'm going to take this glass of water and pour it into half of the website here, and consider this to be search engine authority, right? If I pour it into half of the website, and I say to Google, well, hang on a second, we are kind of an authority on Toronto. We have all these great blog posts about it, we rank for it, we rank on this page, we rank on this piece, and Google says, yeah, actually, your site actually has a lot of ranks for Toronto. They're going to be more inclined to award you a rank on hotels in Toronto as well. And that is the core of the EAT formula or algorithm, however you want to think of it. You don't need fancy tools. You don't need to pay your agency $10,000 a month. That is how it works to conquer the E and the A, okay? And we've done it at Westgate, by the way. So the priority is to write or have somebody write for your city or hotel and resort in the lifestyle and interest of that city. What are the top things to do in that city? What are the places to eat in that city? What are things that your guest is going to search before going on vacation? That's another way to put it, right? rank the content, and then raise the authority water level that we just did, okay? I'm going to go back to Westgate for a second just because it's an easy example. Closest beaches to Orlando. We rank number 1 for it. We get 2,000 hits a month from it. Why did we do that? Is it useful? Yes. But mainly we did it to build authority around something people were searching for about Orlando. We raised the water level, okay? Things to do in Orlando. We rank number 7, 1,400 hits a month. Why did we do that? Is it because we want to be useful? Yes, we do. Do we get opt-ins off of it? Yes, we do. Do we get direct bookings? Probably not very much. Doesn't matter. We raised the water level, okay? Brunch in Orlando. Rank number 2 for it, right? And we don't have 21 restaurants. We listed other people's restaurants, but of course we put ours as number 1, right? Raise the water level, okay? And this is the slide. Take this slide and steal it. You don't need to go run SEMrush and figure it out. I've done this for over 700 different destinations, and I already know what the patterns are to build authority for a destination. You want to publish content on TTD, which is things to do, Peter, which is places to eat or restaurants, and things that have a USP value to your resort, and we will talk about that, your resort or hotel. We'll talk about that in a second, right? So you want to have an authority piece on the 30 things to do in your area, things to do for kids, things to do that are free, things to do at night, things to do for adults. I guarantee you have out of DMA search for that that's being searched into the search engine, and you want to build authority for that. Places to eat, the top 25 places to eat. Make sure yours is number 1, okay? And then USPs. What's a USP? What's a unique selling proposition for your property? Well, that's really difficult to do. No, it's not. Let me share something that we did. At Westgate, we are not necessarily a 5-star luxury chain. Maybe 4 out of 5 stars, right? We're kind of livable luxury, and we know it, right? We have no ego in the situation. But one thing we have with our 7 resorts that are literally next to Walt Disney World in Orlando is space. These are timeshare units, and they are massive hotel rooms. The closest competitor at Disney doesn't even come close to our largest villa. Not even a contest. So we have full kitchens, and the cost to go to Disney World and eat for a family of 4 was $1,400 at the end of 2022 for a day. So a family goes to Disney, they spend $1,400 on food to eat in the parks. That's insane. So we said, well, let's build a blog post about the top 10 grocery stores closest to Disney World in Orlando. Why did we do that? 1, raise the water level. 2, USP. It's our USP. We have full kitchens, and we talked about it in the blog post. Go to one of these stores, get your food for $100, come back and cook it in the kitchen, take it into the parks with you, and spend a fraction of that amount because the parks will allow you to bring food in. It's valuable to the guest. It's a USP to our resort. And you can do the same thing. If you're talking about a hotel in Toronto, it might be 30 things to do in Toronto, 25 best places to eat, and 10 downtown Toronto attractions that you can walk to because Toronto happens to be a very walking city. Correct me if I'm wrong on that, Don. It's a fairly walking-centric place, you know? So, listen. Before we get into the prompts, you can do this, right? You can actually steal that slide and begin building search engine authority for your destination. But now we get to it, as they say in J.R.R. Tolkien's Lord of the Rings. Now we come to it. Are you guys ready to see the prompts? All right, let's do it. We are going to be using these tools in this highly visible deck, ChatGPT, which we all know about. We're going to be using a plugin called Keymate.ai. It's free. We're going to use a plugin called Link Reader, also free. Do not need to sign up for anything, right? At the end, I'll show you how to use a little bit of Midjourney action for those that love Midjourney like me, just to show you exactly how to prompt your way into a public domain photo that you can use. Those are the settings on the upper left. We're going to use ChatGPT version 4. I know a lot of people have given it grief in recent months. Trust me, use it with these plugins and you will get similar results. But first, we have to search our guest interest, okay? Now, here's where I deviate. You've heard a lot about Westgate in past years at the different conferences I've spoken at. I don't want to talk about Westgate anymore. I don't want to talk about Westgate. I want to call out Don McCorkadil, the Director of Revenue Management at One King West Hotel and Residence. Don, will you stand up for a second? Let's give him a round of applause. For the purposes of this presentation, I said I want to work with one of you. I don't want to do Westgate. I want a hotel, just a single hotel, right? And so I just want to thank Don and the team there for being great partners. The content you see here is live on their site right now. Okay, and we're going to share some things at the end of this presentation that might open your eyes. Thank you again, Don. So within the context of this, you want to search your guest interests, things to do in Toronto. We're going to build our first authority piece right here live because we have all the animated GIFs behind us, right? Now, there are some ground rules. You're going to choose a competitor that ranks already in Google, right? And you want to choose somebody that ranks already in the top 5 search results, but there are some ground rules. Don't choose TripAdvisor or an OTA as the result. The reason being is those sites tend to have a million links on them. You're probably not going to dethrone them, right? You're not trying to dethrone them. You just want to raise your water level. 2, it should be in the top 5 search results, and it should be a list type article. When you make your article, you want to make no more than 30 points in your list type article, but no less than 10. Any less than 10, you're simply not going to be developing a body of content that has authority, and we know this by experience. It's been very challenging for us to rank things like that in Google. Green highlighted areas in these prompts are things you need to tell ChatGPT. Yellow, that area is it responding to you or you requesting for it to respond to you. It's kind of like in a relationship with ChatGPT, right? That came out weird. But you know, it is. It's a back and forth. It's a robot, but you got to talk to it. It has to talk back to you, okay? So you start this prompting chain once you have your competitor. We're going to choose Condé Nast. That's a heavy-hitting site right there, Condé Nast, right? So we've chosen the competitor that ranks. That's Condé Nast right there. Boom. These are the 15 prompts that we're going to use. You don't even need to write this down. You can have this deck after the fact. Prompt number 1 takes 35 seconds to run. This is us saying this. I want you to extract all the keywords from our competitor. That green is the competitor right there. Boom. Prompt number 2. This takes about 15 seconds to run. Now, after you browse the competitor, which we defined as the competitor, I want to extract these H1, H2s, and headings out of this. Boom. Prompt number 3 takes about 20 seconds to run. We're going to assess our own site. In this case, it's Don's site, okay? I'm going to give the site just our URL to our site because we got to assess what our structure looks like, what our meta titles look like, and everything. We got to give ChatGPT a chance to look at that. Prompt number 4, 15 seconds to run. We're going to put our keyword that we are going after. We know we're going after things to do in Toronto as our main authority piece here, right? We're going to give it that, and we're going to tell it to write this perfectly optimized list type article with all of these elements in it, right? Prompt number 5. 3 minutes to run this. You still have to put your marketing hat on and actually give it the number that you want. You can give it 30, you can give it 10, you can give it somewhere in between. I tend to stick to round numbers at Westgate because I'm an unimaginative guy. So 30, 25, 20, 15, whatever. If this is your very first piece and you have not built an authority of content to your website, I recommend that you choose 30. Okay? And then we're going to ask it to run a competitor audit. This is prompt 6, takes about 45 seconds to run this, right? You're going to use that, do a competitor audit, and actually look at everything behind the scenes with the competitor now that we've kind of built some structure for ChatGPT to look at our own site and know where it's heading strategically. Now, this is a critical piece. Prompt 7, which only takes about 5 seconds to run, we're still crafting this list type article, but we want to confirm that it understands that we are crafting a list type article about different businesses, activities, and or attractions, and make sure that it understands this and confirms it. This piece is critical. I've seen a lot of people prompting with ChatGPT, just trying to throw, like, do it, do it, do it, do it. This was one of the key prompts that we developed in forcing it to take a pause and iterate to us that it knew what it was about to do. And then we start in with our intro paragraph, which takes about 10 seconds to run this, write the introductory paragraph that's SEO optimized. Then this is the longest prompt in the chain. It should take about 13 to 14 minutes to run this prompt. And the reason being is that, 1, you want to tell it, again, the number 30, which is your number. And we also wanted to build a visitor's tip or a call out or a tourist tip. You can call it anything you want. That's why it's highlighted in green for every single point that it researches in this blog. Why is that? Because those nuanced things that Keymate.ai and some of the plugins are going to be looking at through the reviews and the listing sites out there and collating, those are the actual things that build nuanced authority for all of those things that are going to be on your list, okay? And you don't have to call it a visitor's tip. The second reason why this takes a long time is we're going to ask it to do this 5 points at a time. How many people have seen Memento by Chris Nolan, that old movie? Anybody? Okay, I'm the only one. Somebody in the back. So, you know, ChatGPT is a little bit like Memento, right? It has a really terrible short-term memory. Unless you say to it, hey, I want you to break this really long data stream that you're going to give to me into chunks, right? Give it to me 5 points at a time, and please provide the next 5 points when it confirms, but do not duplicate any of the previous points or places. How many people have used ChatGPT and you're trying to get some research done, and some of the research it spits out towards the end was the exact research it started at the beginning? Yeah, that's a common problem with ChatGPT. But it's a robot. It doesn't really know any better unless you tell it, hey, I don't want duplicative efforts. And then it will listen to you. Okay? So you have to prompt it that way, right? Then we're going to build a table, because Google loves tables, and we're going to build this table from the perspective of the hotel. I want a table that just sits there. I love to call these TLDRs, or too long didn't read tables, because, nobody likes to read long blogs, right? They just want to get to the meat of the action. Well, we're going to give them the meat of the action, right? That's a table that sorts all these places by popularity and the miles or kilometers away from the hotel with the place name, right? Again, we're going to ask it for batches of 5. Do you understand? It's going to say yes, and then we're going to say, looks good, please continue, now provide all the correct distances. One word on this, I measured this time and time again when we did this at Westgate. I measured it for Don's site. It's going to go out there and try to find the shortest route when it puts distances into this table. Some of them are within a margin of error of 1/10 of a mile to 2/10 of a mile or kilometer. Don't sweat it. Okay? I literally had a revenue manager come to me at one point and be like, well, I don't know about publishing that because it might be inaccurate on my blog. Let me tell you something. Pete Vanachuk's media company, which owns 9 websites, have been doing this for a long time with other tools. And if you look at their blogs, they're wildly inaccurate, right? I've got 70 blogs out there in market right now with 40 million impressions on social media that's leading traffic back to these. And we've been using this on them. You want to know how many complaints I've gotten of people being like, that 1/10 of a mile there is not really true if you try to go to that bar in Orlando. Want to know how many complaints I've gotten? 0. Get shit done, just like the last speaker talked about. All right? Frequently asked questions. All right? Ask it to write between 4 and 8 frequently asked questions. Okay? We choose 6. By the way, again, we're kind of an unimaginative lot at Westgate. So we just say 6 over and over again, and we need 6 frequently asked questions about this topic, right? And then a wrap up and a conclusion, and we're going to go out and ask it to go ahead and research all the Instagram URLs for all of these. There's a reason for that, because we're going to use those Instagram embeds as the actual inline image that's above each point. How many people have been on culturetrip.com? A couple people. It's a great site. They do this. They've been doing this for 2 years. I stole this. I didn't really steal this. I took this from them. They were like, man, it's such a heavy lift finding images, and we got to go get attribution, and we got to give attribution to this other person over here. We got to go to Getty Images and buy images. They were like, screw all that. We're embedding Instagrams. Bang, 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 bang. And they rank and bank all over the place. When somebody puts an image on Instagram, they sign the end user license agreement that says their image could be embedded somewhere. If they don't like it, they can turn their image private, and then it will no longer show. It's literally that easy. Now, you should give attribution to an Instagram artist, and I believe you should do that underneath. But I have one of the biggest legal departments in Florida, and I have run this by them, and they have been like, you are good to go. We'll deal with it if somebody sends a complaint. Want to know how many complaints we've gotten? 0. So you want to do this, but you should take a look at these manually, okay? The reason being is that there isn't always an Instagram profile for a place. Like the Humber River area in Toronto is a place, but it doesn't really have a dedicated Instagram. So this is one of the few things you should audit manually, right? And then you go to the top, click on the little clipboard, copy, and paste the entire thing in Google Docs, go through, take a look at the 9 prompts that you gave it, 9 to 12 areas, right? And go ahead and delete yours. I know some of you are saying, Alex, there's a plugin you can use for Google Docs that'll do that for you. Yeah, but here's the thing. I don't like it. I think that marketing managers and agencies just take the time to go in there, read through the article that you've just generated, this a new unique article, and delete your prompts. It's your last fail-safe. It takes 30 seconds to 60 seconds. If you add up all that time before we get to this stage, we've literally created an article in less than 25 minutes. How's that? Pretty awesome, right? This stage, you can take these links and go sign up for Discord and Midjourney. It takes about 60 seconds to sign up. This is one of my favorite tools. We are looking for a blog featured image. This is a prompt that we insert into Discord right here. And it has things to do in Toronto, abstract, clean, minimalistic use for a nice high-end luxury blog or hero shot, right? You give it the green stuff. If your topic is different than things to do in Toronto, you give it something else. If you're not really a high-end luxury hotel, you're boutique and cozy, then boutique, cozy feel, right? But either way, it's going to spit something out. And then you'll be able to choose based on this quadrant, 1, 2, 3, 4 in that order, right? You can upscale something just by choosing the YouTube button, which is going to be this quadrant on the right, upper right. And we're going to go ahead and pull down this new native image of the CN Tower. It is a fictionalized image. Note about Midjourney. None of these images are copyrightable. You cannot copyright them. Neither can anybody else. They are considered public domain at the time of this particular, generative AI season that we're in, right? I don't know if that changes in the future, but right now, it's really an awesome thing, because if you don't really care about copywriting this and you need a cool abstract featured image for your blog, this is a great way to not pay Getty Images. Okay? Then we're going to take our blog post that's in Google Docs. We're going to run through it. We're going to activate Grammarly. Everybody uses Grammarly, right? Please tell me you guys do. All right. Going to activate Grammarly and just take all the suggestions. We've just uniqueified this document significantly. Uniqueified is not a word, but I just made it up. Last thing we're going to do is we're going to plug it into this. Content at scale.ai. They have a free AI plagiarism checker. This isn't plagiarized because we natively made this, so it's not going to set off any plagiarism bells per se. However, I do want to call out that literally that article was posted like 3 days ago, and OpenAI and even some elements inside Google now admit that these checkers can't catch it. And this one's a really good one, by the way. This checker, I have taken native human content and put it into this checker, and it's been like AI, and I'm like, yeah, no, the person just wrote that 30 minutes ago, right? So it's a little bit over, zealous. But I like this checker because it'll at least give you a litmus test. You want to go ahead and get between a 68 and 70% score on this checker for your content. If you don't get a 68% score, what do? I'll tell you exactly what we do at Westgate. We go in, maybe it's a blog about something in Orlando. I say, hey, who's been to this place in Orlando? And, one of our review managers is like, I went there with my girlfriend last week. How was it? It was loud. All right. I add a line, says, place passes the vibe check, but kind of loud on the weekends. I do that 2 or 3 times, boom, I'm over 70%. Structured SEO data in stories for blogs is just codified opinions, people. It's just codified opinion. Add 2 or 3 lines, you'll hit your score, and all of a sudden you've got a pretty unique blog that you can publish. I want to pause there. Do you guys think you can do this? Yeah? Do you guys think your marketing managers can do this? Do you guys think your agency can do this? I hope so, because, we do this to the tune of 12 to 14 times a month at Westgate, and we have significantly reduced our workforce. I hate to say that. Well, we haven't let anybody go, but we have shifted people into strategy rather than writing, because we don't need to have like a full-time copywriter or whatever, right? You can do this. So now let's dig into some pro tips. I'm going to give you 4 pro tips, and then you can scan the QR codes at the end, because I want to get to the Q&A here. But, one thing when you're publishing these blogs, when you publish them off your website, don't put numbers in the URL. Okay, guilty as charged. We did this at Westgate like 7 years ago, and I was like, oh man, this is such a bad idea. We shouldn't have done this. If you have a blog piece and it's 30 things to do whatever, and you want to add more content later on to make it 40 or 50, like to try to, add more value to it, if you have a number in the URL, how are you going to do that? It's going to feel weird. Well, I know what you're going to say. Alex, you just changed the URL. Yeah, but what if people from the outside were already linking to that URL? Well, you're going to 301 redirect it. Yeah, but now we're getting into all this technical nonsense. Just keep your URL clean when you publish it, and start with best or top things to do or whatever the phrase is. Don't put a number in it, okay? Number 2, do use social embeds for images to reduce lift. You definitely want to do this, okay? Almost every blog, this is an actual blog piece of ours. Almost every blog piece we have has something like this. Do place your business as point number 1 if possible. I'm going to tell you a real true story. I met with this SVP of food and beverage. He's a great guy. He does a lot of great things for Westgate and CFI. But originally when I met with him, I said, Mark, I tell you what we're going to do. We're going to start publishing list type articles for authority, and we're going to use other people's restaurants. And just to talk about the last speaker, he talked about political traps. He was like, we can't do that. You can't do that. I'm not going to mention anybody else's restaurant. I'm not mentioning anybody else's restaurant. I said, Mark, tell me what you want me to publish about your restaurant. He's like, well, I want 10 reasons why somebody would go to Drafts or whatever. I said, okay, I'm going to do that. We'll take care of that for you. But I just want you to understand something. And I really want you to hear me on this. And he was like, what? I'm like, no one gives a crap about your restaurant. No one's searching for it by name in Google. He's like, really? I'm like, no, but there's no search volume for it. So I'll publish this, and it'll attract no new prospects and no new traffic, and it won't build authority at all for anything. Now, I'll publish it to be useful, and we can link to it from emails because it is useful content, right? But it doesn't build authority. Now, if you let me, I will get you tens of thousands of new hits to your restaurants by weaving them in to lists about other restaurants. And it's like, okay. So there you go. Ranking number 1 for sports bars Orlando. And Drafts happens to be our sports bar, one of our resorts. Guess what's number 1 on that list? Drafts. This piece pulls in, I don't know, about 6,000 hits a month. And they are very, very happy with being able to publish their coupon codes and menu items on this. And it's done the same way. Do the same thing. If you got a lounge, a common area, a restaurant, something that you have in your lobby, a food truck, a snack stand, I don't care. Put it in there and avail yourself of getting your brand in front of those people, but do it in a sneaky way. Also, do link from your first paragraph on your blog piece to your homepage. This is the secret sauce, guys. If you want to push rank to your homepage so that eventually Google says, hey, maybe we should award you those ranks for hotel and city name, link over to your homepage from the very first paragraph of every blog piece that your agency writes or your marketing manager writes. You can use unbranded keyword terms like great place to stay in Toronto, or you can use your brand name. Just link naturally, okay? This is what moves authority without you having to directly change content on whatever page you're trying to rank. And Google talks about this openly, by the way. This is called the reasonable surfer model. It's a patent that Google holds. And basically they just said, look, we just value links that are higher up on the page and they're more prominent. They don't even hide it. They're just like, do this and we're just going to give you more rank, right? And do post these on social media. What's the difference between Google and your social media manager at your agency? One of them's not starving for content. Once you've posted every image to your Instagram you can think of for your hotel, that's all the photographs, and once you posted all your PR action beats to your Facebook timeline and your Instagram stories timeline, whatever, your social media manager is probably like, what else do you have for me to post? I need to post more stuff, right? They don't really use that voice, although maybe at Westgate we have a few that do. But give them something. Give them something to post. Be like, cool, we did these couple of blog posts every month. You don't have to make a fancy image like we do at Westgate. You can just use whatever the featured image, Midjourney, that you just created. Post it with the headline, 12 best wineries in Gatlinburg, the 10 best hiking trails. These are just some examples. Some of these unboosted, 17 fun facts about Orlando? That's like got 10,000 engagements on it. And I don't even think we boosted that. Okay, be part of the social conversation in a way that makes sense for your destination marketing. And when they click on that, guess where they're going? It's not snackable social content where they just click on it and it leaves a little heart. Guess where they're going? Onto your site, because they're coming onto your blog. And guess what happens then? You can retarget them later on down the line, right? This feeds the boiler room, okay? So do that. I'm going to pause right there. These are 2 links that you can use to take a look at my last presentation on link building. This presentation with even more blog pro tips. There's 12 of them in total. I only had time to go into 4 of them. The tools used in this deck are ChatGPT free, Midjourney free, Content at Scale.ai free, and Grammarly free. A note to those of you who are on WordPress, if you really want to put this on steroids, I have no dog in this race, by the way. I'm not an affiliate provider. I'm not selling anything. I have used all the tools out there, Jasper.ai, Text.ai, Neuron Writer, all of them, okay? The expensive ones, the cheap ones, whatever. ScaleNut, if you are using WordPress, you should be on ScaleNut for this. ScaleNut is an awesome tool, right? It takes everything that we talked about. It creates the featured image for you. It actually injects the meta title and meta description for you behind the scenes. I mean, it's awesome. So if you want to put this on steroids and be like, hey, I want to do this in a more strategic way, I think it's a couple $100 a month to buy ScaleNut, or a couple $100 a year, actually, to buy ScaleNut. So check it out. It won a bunch of awards on Product Hunt. Super great product. I want to pause now and take a moment to recognize my good friend Don McCorkadale from One King West. Don, you want to stand up and we can rap a little bit? So I wanted to take a few minutes just to chat with Don here at the end of this because they were great partners and they spent some time with me. Don, we had a few different calls like during the time that we were working on this. What was the hardest thing, do you think, that was difficult for the team to do?
First off, Alex, I just want to say thank you very much for the presentation. Your passion, you can see, which is amazing, and dealing with you is wonderful, so thank you for that. It's nice to see that in this industry and people trying to move with the new things and show their passion, so thank you. So for us, for One King West being an independent hotel, I'm a gentleman that's been in revenue management for almost 30 years. I'm probably what you classify as old school. To meet Alex and be given this presentation, obviously, I had the same kind of, when we were saying calling up the bullshit and those kind of things. I was nervous too because, AI is coming, this kind of thing, until I had an opportunity to meet Alex. and get them to explain this. The hardest part is the generative AI, learning the prompts, learning the add-ons. When I first went into this, it's the first time I think in a long time I'd been somewhere I didn't understand a word that was going on. But with time, you pick it up. Alex explained it. You get into it, you learn, and as an independent hotel where you've got a market manager or someone going, okay, do this F&B thing, do this promotion. I want you to do this campaign. I want you to do this. I want you to do the Christmas thing. Hey, it's 6 months out. We got to do this. This took 30 minutes, 45 minutes. I mean, obviously, he's a professional. It might take you an hour. It might take you an hour and a half. You're going to get better at it, but it will save you an unbelievable amount of time. And getting it in there and the information that we learn from you, our company that we use for this, obviously, you may be looking for another company. No, we didn't really. With an independent, you have a budget. We don't have the big bucks, so the money's got to go where it has to go. Just changed our philosophy on SEO, AI, and what we need to do to get us pushed up. So we're very appreciative of this, and I think everyone here would do very, very well with it. If you have a moment to speak to Alex, I'm sure he'll talk to you. He's a wonderful gentleman, and you'll learn a lot from this. And I guess I just wanted to mention your question because it was a great time to bring that up about the unsubscribed, and you were saying you're A/B testing, and that's great because I was like what you're thinking. I call it the blockbuster video effect. I mean, there was a time 20 years ago, everyone sat in their room and said, online streaming, no one's going to want that, right? Where are they now? My suggestion is it's here. You go to a high-tech conference, 90% of it's all AI. They got the picture of the human and they have the robot touching fingers and showing all that kind of stuff. Everyone's worried about it, but learn it. Be the person that doesn't. I'm sure Alex isn't going anywhere. He can probably drink 7 beers at his desk and no one will say anything because he understands all this stuff and the money he brings in, right?
Let's not talk about my drinking habits at my desk. When we Zoom with each other, sometimes we see things behind the scenes like, hey, let me help you out with that, Don. So
yeah. And the goal, these kind of things, it's not, you might lose some people. That's going to happen. You might transfer people. But at the same sense, learn it and you're not going to be one of those people, right? So understand it and take it to the next level. It's not going away. It's coming. You can deny it as long as you want, but in 5 years' time, we'll see, right? Half of us may not be in the room if you don't learn this stuff, right? So I would suggest learning it. That's all I can really say. And thanks again, Alex.
Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. And John shared a lot more than I even had in my questions for him, so I'm going to leave it at that. I do want to make a comment about the using AI for email marketing thing, though. We have not done that at Westgate, and I do understand the issues with that is because you truly have to get deep down into the personalization of touch points with people with email marketing. I don't think that we are ready. We use a lot of AI at Westgate. I don't think even we are ready to trust it with email marketing yet. So I just want to call that out because that isn't. Look, this is list type article content that you can build to get authority for a destination, similar to everybody else in the market that's doing that, okay? So there's less at stake because you're not necessarily personalizing this to one person, right? I'm going to share this with Don right now because I had to change my presentation late last night. And the reason being is there is an article published by the Toronto Guardian in August. And sometime, I don't even know when, in the last 48 hours, they decided to link to your website on this new piece. So congratulations. And I do want to share, and I think Don's okay with me sharing this, is that, listen, before we did this, there were a lot of things we talked about on your website, right? And there was an area, kind of page, and it didn't have any links from anybody pointing to it, right? So this stuff is real, guys. It can affect your rank over time. It can affect your trustworthiness as other people start naturally linking to you, right? And I just want to say one last thing before I close out. A lot of people over time have accused me of, pushing SEO, selling SEO. Listen, guys, I don't even have my own agency. I'm like one of the few people that doesn't consult and doesn't really charge people, right? I'm just passionate about your direct channel, okay? I'm not here selling SEO. I'm selling hope. Because if you don't take control of your direct channel in some way, I guarantee you a third party is going to do it for you. And if all you ever do is market in a way that increases your own brand search, then for those of you who have been around long enough to know what I'm about to say in the paid search game, all you're doing is building more volume on your brand search keyword terms for somebody else to intercept and bid on. And that's true because that's exactly what the OTAs are doing to every single one of you. So until you start focusing on something else that's harder to intercept, that builds authority for your site, nothing's going to change. So I challenge each and every one of you, don't try to conquer the world. Don't try to bite the entire elephant, right? Just try one blog post a month and see if you can raise the water level of your site, because your effective search engine optimization, the way that you use it to win back your natural search traffic, requires a commitment, not a campaign.
You talked about 12 to 13 times a month you post. Why not more? Why not less? And then I saw you had a link to it, but I pay an agency to get me backlinks. Yes or no? Should I be doing that?
Those are two different questions. Let me respond to each of them independently, okay? I have a whole other presentation on how we use PR to get links at Westgate, which I believe is the right way to get links, because you don't necessarily... I'm going to deal with the link building question. Everybody here has questions? Okay, so I'm going to Quentin Tarantino it and do the last question first, right? So should you be paying an agency to buy backlinks for you? Okay. I wouldn't, unless you literally are so close to the ground level and you understand what they're pitching to people to get natural links, that you approve of that. Like, you approve, you're a political candidate and you approve this message, right? And you can see transparently that they're pitching to people, right? I would use PR, and everybody knows we use Zimmerman. I mean, I shared that last time. They do an incredible job of like pitching, and then people, syndicate content, and it builds links back to our site the right way, the way Google wants to see those links. And I'm willing to talk with anybody about how to do that the right way. So that's how I would do it. There are other firms, and you and I can rap about that offline, that I've worked with in the past, but you really got to keep your hand on the wheel, because the last thing you want is some sketchy person being like, I'm going to build 10,000 links to your site, and then Google's like, that's unnatural link building. It's a violation of Google's terms and conditions, and we're not, best case scenario, those links won't count for anything. Worst case scenario, if you have a young site, you take a penalty, and that's not good, okay? So I wouldn't do that. Then the other side of it, that's a great question. You know why we don't post more often? And I hope everybody hears me say this. Look, I'm sure my CBO would be a little bit mad at me for saying this, but we have a tough technology structure at Westgate. Our website's kind of archaic. He said it. He admitted that his website has technical issues and it was built on a homegrown system. Yeah, it was. And so it's really hard. Like, I can't even use ScaleNut on my site to publish content at scale. Everything's got to be loaded manually just because of the way that our system is. It's a very secure system, because obviously we've been in the timeshare industry and been in the hotel industry, so you have to have a very secure site. But look, we have technical difficulties sometimes, so we can only go as fast as my copywriter can load content, and that's about 12, 13 times a month right now. I'd love to scale even more than that. We did do a lot of scaling for a while, but listen, that's what we're doing, and we're ranking in the top 3 for Orlando resorts. Imagine if you really scaled this and did 40 blog posts a month, right? There is something to the cadence of this, though, because as you develop like a body of content, you also kind of want to make sure you strategize with, digital strategy was mentioned up here in both hives. And you do want to make sure you're weaving in digital strategy, like the USPs that we talked about, like closest grocery stores to Disney, closest beaches to Orlando, right? Things like that. You're going to do that along the way with your blog, hopefully, right? So it's not going to be all about raising the water level, big jumps every single time. You're going to have some USPs sprinkled in there. So that's how I would answer that question. It's a good question. Those are 2 great questions.
Time for one more. There we go. Thank you.
I had a question about scale. Like Westgate, we have properties all over the U.S. I'm wondering, how do you prioritize topics to write about? Do you look at like markets where Westgate needs more production? Like, Are you using your own data to prioritize, or are you using search data? Like, are you looking at all your markets to find keywords where there are good opportunities? And are you going off like that data, or do you go from your...
I got the question. So yes, we're using Westgate locations, right? So if you've got a hotel, I think there's 2 questions in there too, so let me address them both. Question 1 is, how do you decide what city to go after, right? Well, don't use a city where you don't have a hotel. You don't want to build authority for a destination where, you could rank hotels in that city, but you don't even have a hotel in that city, right? So if you've got a hotel in Toronto, or you've got a place in Toronto and you want to rank for keyword term that place, then you want to start building authority with your content marketing about Toronto, right? That's why the examples you saw in the social media area, they were about Gatlinburg, Orlando, Vegas, New York City, because that's where we have hotels, okay? And the second question is, really, how do you choose, the content to publish? And those two table slides that I shared, the TTD and the PTR slide, that's a starting place for you. You can right away start publishing content on things to do for free, things to do for kids, things to do for adults. It builds authority for that destination. You don't need a fancy tool like SEMrush to go dig that up, because I've seen this pattern over and over again for every single city out there, right? And by the way, all the big media companies do exactly this, right? They exactly do this roadmap here, right? Now, if you want to, and you like things like SEMrush, you can go into SEMrush and just use the city name, right? And, put the word Toronto in there, and then just start filtering by the highest searches and see what searches avail themselves of being a list type article. Because eventually you're going to see searches like, Italian restaurant, Orlando, right? Okay, you can turn that into a listicle, the 20 best Italian restaurants in Orlando, right? You're going to see, things to do for free in Orlando. You can turn that into a listicle, 20 things to do for free in Orlando, right? And that's how you drill down into it. So if you want to take a super scientific approach to it, you can use a tool like SEMrush, plug in the city name, and then measure it by search volume in order of ascending, like the top search volume, and drill down into lower search volume keyword terms, right? But don't forget to, attack USPs in your area too, even if you don't think there's a lot of search volume there. And I'm assuming you guys are using some type of search measurement tool, right? Don't be afraid to attack those, right? And don't just focus on high volume stuff, because one, high volume stuff is tough, right? It's going to take a little while to rank that stuff, right? Because there's probably a lot of people in the space. And two, some of those USPs are really valuable. Another USP we did was Disney Springs bar crawl. I think we still rank number 1 for it. I mean, Disney has a massive media team. You would think that they would have built a 20 best bars to do a bar crawl at Disney Springs, but they never did off of their site. We're next to Disney, so we went ahead and wrote the piece, and we're like, this is the Disney Springs bar crawl, and we ended up ranking number 3 for it. So you do want to spend 80% of your time, if you're going to do this at scale, on the science of going by volume and taking those things and pulling them up into a listicle format like title, and then 20%, USPs and things along the way that are going to be useful to your guests, kind of weave those into the authority for that destination, 20 best places to bar crawl at Disney Springs in Orlando, right? Use the word Orlando.